Maya in the moment. Welcome to Latinas Power Talk. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Heartbreak led you into content creation
Yes.
at 16 years of age.
Yeah, it was at 19.
19.
Yeah, when I got my heart broken. I mean, when you're a teenager, you're like, "Oh my god, my heart is broken." And
This is
then
the
you're
end of
like,
the world.
yeah, you're like 19, you're 20, you're 32, and you're like, "My heart is broken again." But I started making videos at 16 because I always say that, like, I started saying that I'm like a nepo baby because my parents are artists and really grew my brother and I up with like a childhood of just creative freedom and artistic freedom, and which I feel like is rare growing up sometimes. Um, and so yeah, I've always been into like Disney Channel and Broadway and goofing around, and we had like a Mac computer that had a camera on it, like the photo booth.
The photo booth from back in the day,
Yeah, with like
yes.
the different things, and we still have it still to this day. But like that was like the first time that I was like, I can record my own video by myself. Like I can produce it, I can direct it, I can do it myself. And so I just made Maya in the moment. It was my mom helped me a lot with it. Instead of a quinceañera or a sweet 16, she got me a website domain name called mayainthemoment.com,
Okay.
which is great, and yeah, I just really wanted to share the moments of being a Latina, being a girl, being a person, and having this human experience, whether it's with dating or cultural stuff or family dynamics.
Can I just say, you were an influencer before being an influencer was a trend.
Clock it.
You
Thank
sure
you.
were,
Thank
period.
you.
Like, you sure were. Like, before TikTok and everything blew up, like, you were blogging, you were capturing your day in the life. So what we call it now, day in the
Yes,
life,
I was
like
doing like
online.
daily vlogs. And
Yes.
without
So
even
what would you
knowing
talk
it.
about on your My in the Moment blog?
Dumb stuff.
19-year-old stuff?
I mean, yeah, like eventually, I started making YouTube videos at 16, and then I was blogging. And then when I got to 19, after I graduated high school, I fell in love and then got my heart broken. And I love to sing as well. That's like my first love is music and everything. My dad's a musician. And my parents were kind of like maybe a little impatient, so maybe a little problematic for them, maybe a little impatient on my like healing growth for my heartbreak. But they suggested that I sing love songs for people, like to give out love to people through song. And so there is still this website called Fiverr.com where you can do $5 things, and which sounds sus, but it's not. But I was like one of the first who would do $5 customizable love songs for people for Valentine's Day. I made a lot of money off of it. It kind of went viral.
You would write a different song every time.
Yes, like I wrote one for
For
someone's
$5,
dog.
girl?
Yeah.
Ooh.
For someone's dog. I mean, I was making a lot of money.
Wow.
It was good. It was good. It was buying all my little video games. But yeah, and so it kind of, and then I did a series on YouTube where I sang love songs for a year. And so I really started with the base of like music and performing. But then with that would be like musical comedic acts as well. So I would share a lot about love and, through that song, and which led up to many different things.
So one of those things that I was reading is that you really, really wanted to get into BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
So talk us through that, because it was kind of a moment where I looked at this video of yours, right? And you were trying to get into BuzzFeed, but then they asked if you were still enrolled in school because you were trying to get an internship, right?
Right.
So, but it was like a redirection because something better kind of then presented itself later at BuzzFeed for a new like Latino, Latinx content creation like department, right?
Yes. Well, when Vine came out, that's really where I got my start, where I got like my following in like 2013, 2014. And I started making like 6-second videos. My first viral video was like a Disney video that Drake Bell reposted, which was like wild. Thanks, Drake Bell. And and then I saw everything that BuzzFeed was doing with their like quirky content, and I would see some Latino videos, and the Latino videos that I did see, I was like, whoa, because it was like Jenny Lorenzo making videos about like if Disney movies were like novelas.
Oh,
and I was like, it changed. We just had her on our podcast, and it changed the brain chemistry in everything in my body, where I was like, oh my god, like I want to do that. Like I want to study under her. I want to
Mm-hmm.
like work there. I want to do that. And so I had this vision where I was like, one day, I don't know how, I'm gonna work for BuzzFeed. I'm gonna be in LA. I always knew that I was gonna be in LA. I just saw it. Like I just saw that vision, which I feel like a lot of us see these things, but we kind of like gaslight ourselves
Mm-hmm.
into thinking like, no, that's too big. Like what am I thinking I want to be on, like on a TV show or
Mm-hmm.
like out in LA and Hollywood? Like, but that's not for nothing. Like we're not just delusional for
I was gonna
nothing.
say, do you think it kind of like gives us guidance as to where our life could potentially go? Because for it's embedded in our head for a reason, and I always thought like I envision my life. I have my life planned out, and it's been planned out of like what I envision it. Yes, can it kind of like steer in a different
Right.
direction at times? Yes, but I think it's almost kind of like guiding you. Now you can either listen to it and
Yeah.
go after it and pursue it, or you can let fear and doubt and all those things like take over, and then just like hide in your bubble. You know what I mean?
Right. I think you have to have some like bumpers, like you have to have some guardrails with your dreams and stuff to allow the fails and to allow, because since from Vine to BuzzFeed, I was not going viral a lot anymore. My views were going down on YouTube. I wasn't gaining a lot of traction. I was like, I have nothing to lose. So what I'm going to do now in between whenever like BuzzFeed like approaches me or I approach BuzzFeed is I need to learn, I need to up my skill set. So I looked at what kind of videos they were making. I learned how to do cooking videos, fashion videos, comedic skits, vlogs, like storytelling things, so that when the day came, I would be like, put me in, coach, I can do anything.
Oh
Like,
wow.
you want me to do this? Okay, cool. Yeah, I can do that because I had nothing to lose and I didn't care at the time what anyone thought, because I think the thing that I feel like now in this part of my life that scares me a little bit is trying, showing everybody that you're trying to do something,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, oh, you're trying to do that new thing, oh, and maybe it doesn't get enough views at the time or whatever. Like the whole thing of like just social media is like putting yourself out there to fail
Right.
essentially, and everybody's watching and everybody's judging, but you're also growing at a faster rate when you don't care about that stuff.
Yes.
So when I, things were kind of like slowing down for me on social media. Um, I had dropped out of college because I wanted to do social media and Vine and stuff, because I was getting flown out to different like I was to different premieres
Mm-hmm.
and to like create content for movies and stuff, and I was missing a lot of school, and I was like, hey parents, so grateful for this experience of being able to go to college. It's expensive, like loans, all that stuff. What if I were just to like pursue another avenue and really just hit that hard and go hard on that? And they were like, okay, yeah, but you got to get a job. And I was like, yes, but this is going to be my job. Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yeah. So I quit college and I pursued Vine and everything. And then there was a moment when I was like, I got this job offer that would pay for me to go back to school, which is
Hmm.
amazing. But to me, it felt like I wasn't supposed to be doing that. Like my vision of being at BuzzFeed, I was like, okay, I guess it's just going to be delayed, but I'm going to trust whatever this is. Like, I'm going to go through it. Literally, I had an interview with that job. The next day, they contacted me because I had done a love song, customized love song for a TV show called Right This Minute.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those producers ended up working at BuzzFeed later on, remembered me, and asked me if I wanted to be a resident. I didn't have to audition, I didn't have to send my
Right.
resume. I already had built up so much work, and she was like, why didn't you ever apply? I'm like, because I thought I had to have my degree. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go back to school, get my degree. That's going to be like what, 3 or 4 years, and then okay, I'll be ready. And she was like, no, you didn't have to have your degree. Like your body of work is enough. And I got the job. Yeah, I like got the residency for 3 months and then got the job later on. But it was like, that was just like such a journey of just feeling like you're alone and having to really trust yourself. And then there's the trusting yourself when you're away from your family in like a foreign state that you're not
Right.
used
Then
to, you
being
know?
independent and not relying on them. So there are a few things like, so first, you mentioned like how you wanted to be very like well versed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In fashion, cooking, you learned all these different things about content creation. When people say nowadays, because I feel like I hear it all the time, where people are like, "Oh, what's your niche?"
I know. I hate that, honestly.
Where do you think, why do you think we're kind of like going to this mentality of like you have to be one specific thing on social media or else you're not going to pick up? Because I hear it all the time of like people saying like, oh, they want to go to your page and know they're only getting fashion
Right.
videos, or they want to know that they're only getting cooking videos or whatever. And I think we've become so accustomed to like telling people that they have to have a niche in order to be successful or go viral or like increase their followings. What's your take on that?
I don't like it. I think it's, can I cuss on this? I think it's bullshit.
Yeah, cuss, girl.
I think it's bullshit because I understand, but that's an algorithm created by TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or created by possibly like Instagram as well. I do so many things. I do comedy. I do like storytelling videos
Mm-hmm.
about my Spanish learning journey, or I do like music, like, and I feel like I am at a point where I'm like, yes, I understand what they're saying, but really, like, if I'm going to go to your page, I'm going to your page for you, for your sauce, for you as the human creator.
Mm-hmm.
Not, maybe there's other pages where I'm like, okay, cool, I'm just going to go for cooking videos because they're not showing me that vulnerable part. There's like a wall. So I'm all about creators who break down that wall
Mm-hmm.
and are able to let us in a little bit in a way that's safe to them, because there's multiple times in my career where I just was like word vomiting all of this stuff I was not ready to talk about. But like, I want to relate to people, especially now in this time with this administration. We need to be able to relate to people who we feel safe with, who we're able to rally with to
Mm-hmm.
like get the shit going, because shit's going down. You know, I'm like, yes, I can find a cooking video anywhere, but like, ask ChatGPT for that. Like, I'm looking for you. Like, are you a cook who feels insecure? Okay, me too. Like, I'm gonna, like, how do you make me feel not insecure about my cooking or whatever? You know, like,
Right.
I'm looking for the person.
Right. So, what would you say? Like, I feel like I've gone through this too, where I feel like in today's political climate,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if you already have a big following or you're in the process of reaching that influencer status, you're scared of like taking a stance or using your voice
Yeah.
because that can impact brand deals if that company doesn't want you to be pro this way or pro that way, whatever it is. I feel like sometimes you have a voice, but influencers or creators are scared to use it. How has that impacted you as a content creator?
I think having a really good team that's you're surrounded by. My manager does not push me into anything that I don't want to do, even if it's like a huge opportunity, because we have this. I totally believe in karma,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe in like what you're putting in, you're gonna get back in some way that's not gonna be kind of like what you expected. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna put my energy in a brand that doesn't, first of all, see me or see my community as people who need to be uplifted. I'm not going to invest in that. I'm not going to promote your product. Like, is it going to be harder to find another product? Sure, but I feel like we're trying to now break down these very hard capitalistic structures. And the resistance we're feeling is them being like, but no, it's so easy and accessible. Just here, promote this, or here, like, no, like, let's go back to small businesses. We should be there at small
Mm-hmm.
businesses and promoting them. But I do understand if you have built up your life and your career and your money surrounds branded deals, like, and I think it's kind of a deal you have to make with yourself. If this is out of survival and you have to take this deal in order to survive, like, I'm not going to hate you for that, but you know what you're getting yourself into. You know, I think everything it's a give and take. And I
Right.
think it's harder now because I think people are way more like they'll call people out. Cancel culture is
I was gonna say
crazier.
the backlash that sometimes, like, it's a double-edged sword. Like, yes, you
Yes.
do know what you're signing yourself up for, but until like you experience it,
Yeah.
I think you don't understand how hard it's gonna hit you
Yes.
and how personal you're gonna take it, or like how it's gonna really knock you down. Like for
Yeah.
some people, they're like, oh, I don't read the comments, and they go on with their day. For other people, like that shit just like rips you up apart. You know what I mean? The comments, because
Yes.
people can be so brutally mean for
Yeah.
no reason. Like, I think we're going into a time where people think that they can just post anything just because they're behind a screen and no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
But how have you created your brand for someone who's like aspiring to do the same thing? Like, how have you created your brand and maintained authenticity through, like, I'm pretty sure you have a management team, you have this and that sometimes they try and take you in different paths. How have you been able to maintain true to yourself?
I think I have a strong spiritual foundation, whether that's God or like whoever you believe in. I think the spirituality of it comes with like me really working with my ancestors and my past loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents who I know I got my comedic gene from and my musicality gene from, but they didn't have access to be able to perform back then because they had to provide. And so I come from like, okay, I'm doing this for you guys. And this is something in my lineage that I know is my destiny that I have to complete in some way. Like I think of it as like a movie, like
Yeah.
a Disney movie where like I'm the main character. Like I know I'm doing this for my family, like number one. Like I help support anybody that I can in my family, and that drives me to work harder. But without all that, I think you need to have a strong spiritual foundation within yourself of complete trust, which is really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, like not gaslighting yourself when you see that vision and you feel it deep in your gut that you're meant to do this. I think it's like yesterday I was like, oh, having such a day because I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Truly, like, what is happening? Like, where am I at? Like, what's happening? And I talked to a friend who was like, you're forgetting who you are. Like, you're a bad bitch. Like, come on. Like, you're not like all these other girls, like all these other creators. Like, you are you. So having that strong trust in yourself, also community is the biggest thing because they will remind you who you
Mm-hmm.
are and who you started as
In
and who
those
you
moments where
are
you doubt
now.
yourself, yeah.
Yes, for sure. So I think that's the biggest way that I stay authentic, but I think it's also like nobody can do it like me. Nobody can do it like you. And you have to believe that full force. You can't let any doubt in seeping in because, comparison is evil. It's like it's the killer of all creativity. Like you want to create more than you consume and just have little reminders that like, oh no no no, yeah, this is what makes me unique and cool. It's a
What do you
lot.
think? What do you think makes you unique and cool?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know. I think I really love that I try really hard for the things that I want to do. Like I go full force.
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes when I like want to half-ass stuff because I'm scared, but once I click into that Aries mode, like I really love that I drive it home. I did this commercial a couple years ago, and I am not a traditional like tradition or classically trained actor or musician or vocalist anything. I'm like completely homegrown. YouTube University, shout out. And I remember being like, fake it till you make it. Like I had to
Mm.
have such big energy in this commercial, and the director said 100, and so I took it to like 500. They had to bring me down a little bit, but it was that moment where I was like, bitch, you're a star. Like you have to have those moments, as silly as it is. I love that I have those moments that I'm like, I'm a star, and I don't feel any type of way when I say that. Like everybody has to feel that way.
Yes, 100%. Let's talk about fake it till you make it. Because I
Yes.
think that some people get confused as to what it means.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it doesn't mean to be fake about who
No.
you are. What is fake it till you make it?
Fake it till you make it is like you have to. It's like Beyonce's persona Sasha Fierce.
Mm.
That's her fake it till you make it. And it's not as like faking that. I think it's faking that you're nervous, or maybe faking that you're like, you think that you can't do it. Like, you want to convince, you convincing yourself like, no, well, I'm actually a star, so I'm actually going to do this and I'm actually going to kill it. So whatever, I don't know, I don't care. Like, it's that type of thing where you have to go into this like truly delusional mode. Doesn't mean, like you said, being fake, like, to other people, like, or faking a certain persona when you're like networking. It's when you're performing, and whatever that performance is, whether it's on camera or you're writing, like, it's you taking on this higher version of yourself, this higher self that is always there. It's just allowing yourself to access it is the hard part, because we fight ourselves.
So let me take it back for you a little bit.
Yes.
So you have built up your career all on your own. You have got into places that you always wanted to be in all on your own, with your own work ethic, with your own, like, who you are and your character as a person. However, I think we all have moments where we like allow imposter syndrome to like come in, and those moments where like, because I look at you and I look at your videos and you're so confident.
Thank you.
Do you have those moments, like you kind of just said, like you do have those moments where you're like, wait, what am I doing? Like, and you have someone to like remind you. But in those moments, what is like the reasoning to like not feeling confident?
Oh man, I think the root of it when you don't feel confident is comparison. It's comparison because you are you're looking at other people, and I think and it's a narrative. Like, it's all a narrative. So like the narrative in my head yesterday was like, why do I need to make this certain type of video? There's somebody who's smarter, funnier, prettier, skinnier, like, I don't know, the list goes on. Like, why should I do that? I'm just not going to do it, you know? And it's like, what? Huh? Like, and I know that's not true. And I think when we do get those imposter syndrome moments, we can't just like brush them aside and be like, get out of here, imposter syndrome, which is like what I used to do, like so aggressively. But I was like, that imposter syndrome is a part of you. That's something trying to protect you inside, to not look dumb, to not look like less than, or it's trying to protect you from something. And you have to talk to yourself in a way. Like, I just imagine myself, like, me talking about this, I'm like, people probably think I'm like in a corner being like, you have to be confident, you have to be cool. Like, but yeah, like, you have to talk to yourself and say, I understand that I'm creating some resistance from wanting to be confident, and I know that it's just a protection and a defense mechanism, but I got it. I'm gonna learn from this. And if I'm gonna look dumb, cool. Like, I think failing is and making mistakes is the quickest fast track way to getting where you want to get to, because you learn at a quicker rate than you would succeeding. Like, you succeed, you're like, oh my god, yes, I did that. You fail, you have so many takeaways, not only personal but creatively, where you're like, oh yeah, I should have done that. I think that is the biggest work, is not being afraid to fail, because then you will be more confident. We've seen people who are like so confidently failing all the time.
Yeah.
But how come they're growing at a faster rate? Because they don't care, you know? So just don't care. It's as simple as that.
Just don't care. So, you got the job at BuzzFeed.
Yes.
Was it everything that you ever imagined?
Oh my gosh. You want the TT?
Yes.
You want the cheese man? Oh my goodness. It was a roller coaster.
Really?
I had me and my bestie Curly, who was on Better Like with me. He was one of the founding members of Better Like. We had Jenny Lorenzo, who was also one of the founding members, on our podcast called the Super Secret Bestie Club. Bing. Plug. And we just had this big conversation about how much, this is going to be really bad, how much of a cult we think we were in.
Oh, dang.
Low key. Just because it was something so unique. It was a unique experience that I feel like nobody else will ever get or have again. I think it started so many different trends. And I think at the time that I was there, I learned so much because I was with this group who had to face so many trials and tribulations trying to get a bilingual phrase out there in a video or a bilingual title, because sometimes they would tell us, like, we would say, like, oh, when your abuela does blah blah blah, they're like, can you just say grandmother, because not everybody uses abuela, or like different things like that. And we had to fight for like a Latina manager, a social media person. So sometimes I look back on, like, oh my god, that was fun, then I was like, oh my god, we're all trauma bonded from it.
Really?
Yeah, just because it was
Do you
really
think your department
hard.
was almost like kind of buried underneath everyone else's priorities? Like as the company as a whole, was it like not given that much attention maybe?
It's weird because in the beginning, like, and that's why I brought up Jenny before, was because she was talking about how it was so difficult to get any Latino content out there because of the higher ups were all white men,
Mm-hmm.
and they
And
didn't
they still
trust. Oh,
kind of
girl.
are.
Yes, and
Like,
so
let's just
it
be honest. Look at the list of the everyone who sits in a director
yes,
position.
yeah. So it took us adding. There's a couple people in the company who were white, who did help us, who did see like that we,
Advocate. Yeah.
yeah, did advocate. And it really took us ourselves knowing that we were not, like, when I first got there, they were like, you're not here to be a star. You're not here to get yours and then leave. You're here for the culture. You're here to service the culture. So,
Mhm.
what in your experience can you offer as guidance or hope or advice for your niche, you know, sector of how you feel about your community and your culture? And that was so important because, you know, a lot of the times I feel like they wanted us to push a lot, like, hardcore branded things of like, oh, I'm Latina and I love tacos. Use this taco sauce. Like, that's not something we did, but like something like that where it was so generic and we had to fight back hard, you know? And I feel like I have a different perspective of it now, and maybe it's a little skewed to what's going on nowadays, where now they're pulling back because, girl, by the time I left, they were making so much money off of us, and
Mhm.
still are, and
So,
still are.
what year did you start with them?
2016,
2016, and then
yeah.
you left.
I left 2021.
Okay.
So it's crazy because I left at a point where they were making a lot of money off of what we were doing, and they had solidified that the Latino community, um, we go see movies the most,
Mm-hmm.
we like spend our money the most, like
Consumers.
we're
So really, yeah.
consumers, and we're hungry for representation, and that's what we were trying to serve to them. But you can only do so much when you're at a company, um, and it just, it was hard, but it was also so beautiful, and the most amazing experience that I will one of the most amazing experiences I will ever have, ever. And each one of the producers that I worked with, we all have that kind of, you know, in some way same perspective, um, because we just got to learn. Like, I didn't go to college for film school or acting or anything, but I got to direct things. I got to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to produce and work with cameras and learn how to color correct. Like, I didn't know how to do that before, and that was all, and getting paid to do it, and
Right.
using my skill set of just my creativity and who I am as myself as the evidence of worthiness for me and this and that job. You know, it wasn't, I didn't have to get like a college degree. They wanted my perspective. And so that's why it's like niche content, you know, yes, but it's also like people are going to remember you. They're going to remember you.
I think you brought up something that I can relate to, and maybe like you have another experience where like they've kind of treated you in the same way. But you were saying how like, okay, you were making these videos and they didn't want you to use the word abuela because maybe not everyone knows that word, or they're like, oh, I'm Maya and I love tacos. Like very kind of, it reminds me of gentrification a little bit, where
Yes.
it's like they're kind of changing our culture in a way. Um, so I did acting, and I stopped a couple years ago acting, and I will never forget that I had a manager that I was about to sign with, and thank God I didn't sign with her,
Mm.
because I remember being on the phone with her and she goes, well, you're Hispanic. I think we should change your name to like Maria. Do you have a middle
Ooh.
name or something? She's
Ooh.
like, because I think we really need to make you, she said this, seem and sound more ethnic.
Mm.
And I go, it's hard to hear that, one, because you're like, is my name not good enough? Like, I
Right.
am Latina, I am orgullosamente mexicana, like
Yeah.
I embody all these things, but you want me to change the name because that in your eyes as a white woman
Mm-hmm.
makes me look more Latina. That rubbed me the wrong way. But also, I think when you're starting,
Mm-hmm.
you have those things get embedded in your head where you're like, wait, do I need to look more of a certain way?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to change my mind? I think sometimes when you're hungry for growth in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
you're okay, fine, I'll take it.
Yeah.
When it maybe is not the best thing for you and it steers you away from who you are in your core.
That's when you lose yourself.
That's when
That's
you
when you
lose yourself.
compromise yourself and you lose your authenticity. And I think that was one of my fears too, going into acting, just straight up acting and not like social media anymore. Um, like that was a thought process where I was like, I'm gonna have to compromise myself. I'm gonna have to like lose a bunch of weight. I'm gonna have to like fully fix my teeth. I'm gonna have to like do all these things. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. But then I was like, I just have this thing. Maybe I'm just super delusional, where I'm like, there's not one way to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not only one road. There's multiple different roads, and I think we are super great as Latinos, Latina people. Like, we're great manifestors
Mm-hmm.
of our dreams, and like, we're not bullshitters. We're actually very talented and smart, and and I'm glad that you didn't sign with that person. Like, that that was bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, that was that you didn't have to
100%.
change yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's also a fear that we're also too powerful sometimes for like the industry, because we have the numbers and we watch, and like, why do you see so, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why, like, a lot of Latino productions and TV shows get canceled. But it's like we're still going out and watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, On My Block, we watch On My Block so
Right.
much.
One of my favorite shows was One Day at a Time. I don't know if you saw
Yes,
that
yeah,
on
yeah,
Netflix. I love
yeah.
that
Shout out
show.
Gloria. Hey,
Shout
Gloria.
out to Gloria. I've been wanting to have her on the podcast.
Yes.
So we're manifesting that for the
Oh yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
Yes.
I'll connect you guys. Yeah, for
Yes, for
sure.
sure. But so we as Latinos are one of the biggest consumers in this country. We bring in a lot of money, we spend a lot of money, and we also put a lot of money into this economy, into this nation. However, I think as much as the audience demands for more diversity, I don't think we are getting the diversity at the speed that we are wanting to see. Unfortunately, like you said, like we still have all these like Latino shows being canceled on Netflix, Hulu, all these platforms. I don't understand why, and maybe like you have a perspective as to why. If your audience is demanding it, why do you think we're not listening?
I do think there's something within our culture that we have to take accountability
Yeah.
for. And I think we're not a monolith. It's so hard to represent all of the Latino experience because there's subcultures. There's Mexican American,
Mm-hmm.
there's Asian, Latino, there's Dominicans, there's Puerto Ricans, and then everything mixed. There's so many intersections,
Right.
and there's so many people who still don't feel represented. Like, there's still not like a heavy show that has like a lot of Central Americans,
Mm-hmm.
and so, or like, we all speak Spanish differently, we all intake it
We all have
differently,
different accents.
different
Yeah.
accents. So I feel like with these shows, they try to give us like a blanket,
Mm-hmm.
like, all in one Latino experience, and it's just not. And I think we also have to, as long as they're like canceling these shows, we have to show up for these shows, but also, like, it's so hard. It's like, I feel like we complain a lot, rightfully so, because we want to be represented, but like, I feel like we're not doing it in the right way. But then it's like, what is the right way?
I was gonna say, what is the right way?
I just, because I've been on like the inside of like Latino entertainment, and I'm like, okay, this show is gonna do really good. It's great. It has all the actors. It has a full Latino cast and team and all this stuff. And then some Latinos don't like it because of the way this actor said a certain word in Spanish. Like, and then that shit, they're like, well, I'm not watching it because it's not authentic. But it's
Right.
authentic to somebody else.
Like,
It's
well,
like,
let's talk about something that's like
yeah.
been criticized recently is Emilia.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
like it faced a lot of criticism. So I understand where you're saying we're like, okay, we do get it, but then we criticize the shit out of it.
Yes, which is like, of course we should. We should, but then we like but I do feel like it's pushing the Latino industry and entertainment industry to do better and work harder. So like, yes, our criticism is actually working, but it's also like, I think what some executives are seeing is like, well, why are we making these shows if they're just going to complain about them all the time? Which is
Okay.
like, but you made like 500 different shows about a white family in a
Right.
sitcom, and the dad is like the most boring dad ever. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
huh? We're not watching that shit. Like, we're not watching it.
How many shows can you make of the same thing?
Exactly.
Yes,
Like,
right.
let us make those shows until we find the right format. Let us have a bunch of different shows that represent Central Americans, Asian Latinos, queer Latinos, so that we have a full plate so that everybody gets fed versus
Yes.
one show for everybody. Like, that does not make sense at all.
No, you're right. You do have a point, and I think you're right. I think we are too hard to criticize our own shows, and I don't know why.
Well, I think it's because people want to feel seen and heard, and I mean, I know a lot from my experience at Pero Like, where the comments were just like, I don't do it like that. I don't say it like that. That's not how we make this type of food. Ooh, food? Like, that is the biggest. Well, we don't put that much. We don't put this and that. It's like, okay, you don't, but they do. I
Right.
do. He does. Okay, then what do you do? Like, I think it's that kind of energy.
Right.
It's like las tías, las señoras that are, they have access to Facebook, so they're gonna
Get in there and type their
Yep.
comments. Yes. Las tías, everyone. Yeah.
love their opinion. Love you, girls.
After you left BuzzFeed, you tapped into acting a little bit. You were on the on Vida on Stars, produced by Stars. How is that like? I know you mentioned briefly like kind of tapping into that industry and really kind of having a moment to yourself where you're like, "Wait, I don't want to change who I am or what I look like." Were you ever approached by anyone asking you to do that?
No.
Okay.
See, that's the
Okay.
thing that is crazy is we have these narratives in our mind that we create. They're like, they're probably going to ask me to do this. They're probably going to. And I think it's because you're anticipating what people are going to say, like viewers and commenters and stuff. But I left BuzzFeed in 2021. And actually, I think I did Vida. I forgot when I did Vida. I think I did 2021. Wait. I think I was still at BuzzFeed. Possibly. It was in the in-between. And it was Tanya Saracho, who is the creator, director, writer of Vida, who followed me from Curly because Curly was a writer, or he was a consultant on the show because they were looking for Latinos with queer experience who were like born and raised in LA. And so then he got to be on the show on the show to play himself. So she was following me at the time because of like the pedal like stuff, and she saw me singing on my Instagram stories, in this like cute like crop top shirt. I was singing with my ukulele, and then she was like, "Oh," she DM'd me. She's like, "Oh my God, do you want to be in Vida?" And I was like, yes, girl. Well, I could be there tomorrow. What do you want? I'll be a tree. I'll be a tree. I'll be a chair. I'll be a couch. I'll be anything. And so she cast me as I have like a cute little small cameo, like 15 seconds. It's on Hulu. You can watch it. I was like a karaoke singer, and she had me wear that same outfit, and I was just being authentic and true to myself. And I truly feel like the more you post, the more something's gonna catch, someone's gonna watch it, someone's gonna see it and get inspired. And the more we limit ourselves and critique and edit, the less chance we have. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. So I also during that time auditioned for a Nickelodeon show. I auditioned for a Disney Channel show. Like, and they came to me. I don't have an agent. I just have like a manager. But it was because I was just doing dumb shit. Like the dumb shit is just like being myself and making videos and just not caring and speaking my truth, whatever that is, and that catches people's eye, So now I feel like I'm about to really dip my whole self into the acting world.
Really?
Yes, and and do social media at the same time. Um, and I'm scared for that. I might have to hit you up about that.
Why? What scares you?
I don't know. I think it's because I don't have the I always say like the traditional acting experience because I worked with somebody who was like, "Well, I'm a traditional actor. I went to school for this and I'm classically trained." And I'm like, "Fudge, I don't have that. Like I'm just me in my bedroom like."
But you got to think about it. So, a lot of these actors didn't go to Juilliard, didn't
Yeah.
go to these like acting schools. You either have it in you and you have the passion for it and you have the talent for it, or you don't.
And honestly, that girl was like intimidated by me. She
She was
admitted it
throwing
later
shade.
because and people get intimidated when you don't it's a little bit of a classist thing
Mm-hmm.
when you like are like I have this thing and you're like okay cool you have this thing that I don't have that I didn't have the money or access for to go to like an acting school which is so expensive but I have natural talent girl that I didn't have to pay for so what
Yes.
so
Now
what
I have something money can't buy.
so what? But now I'm gonna get into more acting stuff so I can
Yeah.
increase my skill set. But it's like those things, like catching myself, like right now, of saying, like, oh, I have to lose weight or I have to do this and that. There are all these weird narratives
Mm-hmm.
that are not based in a lie or anything false. We see, like women especially, as we age, it's like I'm about to be 32. Is my time gonna be done by the time I'm 35? Like because I have a couple like wrinkles or something, or like
Didn't
I
Oprah
didn't get
start at 40 or
Botox.
something
Like
like that?
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there's things like that where
Yeah.
it just floods your mind, and you have to realize like no, that's not it. Like I always say like that's not my reality.
Right. So, what do you want to tap into? Comedy, drama,
Ooh, all of it. I
all of
mean,
it?
currently I'm working on a webisode series.
Okay.
So
Do
that'll
you have an agent now or a manager?
I just have a manager
Okay.
who's more for social media, but she'll handle like a lot of other things, but definitely looking for an agent. Hey girl, hey anyone out there? What's up? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, I definitely want to go towards. I think because I'm so into not compromising myself in a way of like, yes, I want to play other people's characters, but I'm like, I feel like I just have such a very unique, specific thing that I can do that I think it's just gonna have to be my own show,
Okay.
which I've done before. Like I've episode 1 of this webisode series came out in like 2022 and
Did you write this webisode?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah.
girl,
So
add
writing
that to
it,
your
directing
resume.
it, all
Okay.
of it. Yes, in it.
What can't you do?
Oh my gosh. A lot. A lot and yet not a lot. Yeah, so I think I really am about getting my community back. So I think it's the thing I miss from BuzzFeed so much is that community of having access to creatives every single day and
Mhm.
bouncing ideas off of each other, collaborating with each other. And I know so many talented Latino producers who we're all hungry to do stuff and to collab. So I'm just excited to get back and be silly again. I know a lot of people miss like the classic Beto like videos. That's what I get a lot. And so this is gonna be like kind of that, but with more of like a I don't know, Ugly Betty,
Ooh.
like SpongeBob, Napoleon Dynamite,
Ooh.
Nacho Libre type of all dated. I'm showing my millennialness, stuff. But yeah, I think I'm really about creating my own stuff, which is I think going into what this next 4 years is gonna be about is we're gonna have to come back to each other and be like, you need help on your project? Cool. Well, you want me to hold a
Mhm.
light? Cool. You want me to edit?
Mhm.
Cool. Like, we need to be like exactly what you guys are doing here now,
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Like, we need to be doing our own stuff and not waiting for these big brand people. Because who are they? Who are they run by? Stinky old white men.
True.
I don't want that.
True that. We gotta become what we want to see.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in collaboration, like, can we get real a little bit?
Oh yeah.
I feel like in this space, and you've been in this space longer than I have, I'm just getting started. There's a lot of people who have this negative mentality of like, oh, you're my competition. And I hate that. I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you're saying. Like, we need to come together and, like, oh, do you want me to help you on this project? Do you want me to help you on this project? Like, we are trying to build each other up. And I think we need more of that because for
Mm-hmm.
some reason, and I don't know. I don't know what the reason is, but people think that, like, I'm not going to share her things because then my stuff gets less views or whatever.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yeah. Or I don't
dude,
want them to be more successful than me.
there's space for
Yeah,
everyone.
there
Like,
is.
I want us to get to a point where like we can collaborate and not compete against each other.
Yeah.
You know, because it's pretty ugly. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are good things. Like, you do find good gems, good people, you know, who are all about community. But there's a lot of people that, like, man, they drain my energy
They
sometimes
suck, and
when,
then they're like on all these TV shows, and you're like, oh, okay, nobody knows that they're actually like a really bad person. How are they getting successful? And then you have to be like, that's the comparison thing, though. Like, why do they have that and I don't? Like,
mm,
you're spending so much time on like why this person has something that you want. I change it around, and I
yeah,
always say like, oh, I would want that too. Like, yeah, I want to be on a show too, or I want to have this deal too. Like, good for them. Like, yeah, I'm gonna have that too.
yeah,
Because you can't, we're not all angels. Like, we all think that way
yeah,
sometimes. We're like, oh, I really want that, and they can't do it as better as me, or whatever, like, whatever. And we have to like transmute that energy into like, okay, this person has opened up a pathway for us,
mm-hmm.
and visually now I can see them doing that. Now I can see myself doing that. Like, thank you for that. Like, I
Right,
will have that too. That's great. And then also, yeah, you want to collaborate with those people. Like, if you feel
mm-hmm.
intimidated by someone, I would totally put them in my webisode series or work with
Yeah,
them to be like, oh, you're just so intriguing. Like, yeah, let's work together.
right.
Like, how can we help each other?
Help each other, that part,
Mm-hmm.
100%. Have you had a moment like in your career where you're like, damn, like, I didn't think this was gonna happen, like,
Oh my goodness. Like, in what way?
in whatever way?
I didn't think that this was gonna happen. I mean, yeah, I think yeah, there's like little things that I thought was gonna come out of Better Like and BuzzFeed as a group.
Mm-hmm.
And we were honestly like a band. Like, it felt like a girl band or something.
Nice.
And I feel like some people went away and some people stayed, and you know, I thought that the brand itself was gonna be something different. I think I had too much trust in like a big corporation company, you know, that I
Mm-hmm.
really thought that they were gonna take us to stardom.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh dang, I didn't know that that was gonna happen. That they just were not going to
right.
like invest in us in that way when we were making so much money for them, and it was getting such a big response. But also, you know, it was corporate. You're working for a company at the end of the day. Like, I think when companies that you work for, they're like, we're a family. No,
No,
not a lot. Not like
you look
the
at me
people
like
who
a
are.
number. Let's be
Yes,
honest.
yeah.
You think you can replace me at any moment? Yeah.
Yeah, I really came to LA when I was like 23 with such a doe-eyed, naive, like, everyone's gonna get along, everyone's gonna, and I think I realized that, like you said before, like, there are people who are gems and there are people who are not, and you have to really work hard to cultivate your own community.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really thought that like is like everybody's on my side.
Yeah.
Or, like, everybody has my best intentions. Everyone's looking out for themselves. And you should too. Like, not in a way where you step over people, but yeah, I think company wise, community wise, like, I really just came in it with the perspective that I was like, and everyone's gonna love each other and everyone's gonna be a star and be happy. And that didn't happen. Well, it did in different ways, but
In different ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, in anything really,
Yes.
in whatever setting, I think you have those people that are a little harder to deal with, but you just gotta keep on pushing. Like
Yeah.
you can be working at a real estate office and have the same exact thing. You
Yeah,
know what I
you
mean?
just never expect it when you're like, oh, wait, you really just don't like me for no reason.
Yeah.
Like, I really trigger you for what?
Does that ever get in your head?
Yeah, it used to a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, but then you just block them. And then if they get mad at you for blocking, like, well, then you really loved me then, huh? Then I was really something to you, huh? Straight up.
So, what is next for you? Obviously, acting, but is there a little sneak peeks of things or anything you want to manifest?
Well, currently I have my podcast with Curly called the Super Secret Bestie Club. Waiting for season 4.
Nice.
That's
Season
with
4.
yes,
That's exciting.
yeah. It's with iHeartRadio. Thank you. It's with their Latino channel called My Cultura and Sonoro.
My Cultura, is that with I've heard the commercials. Is that with Wilmer Valderrama?
Yeah, he has a podcast with them, and a bunch of different. Cheekies has a podcast with
Jenica,
them.
I think too, is part of it.
Yeah, and
that's big, girl.
yes,
Congrats.
thank you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
they're so cool, and they treat us well. So, but yeah, we're doing that. That comes out every single Wednesday.
Yeah.
We added a video component, which is great. But yeah, I'm working on my webisode series. The episode 2 should be dropping probably within like maybe May.
Okay.
And then I'm also making my own music. So my music will
Nice.
come out like at the end of the year for sure.
Like a whole album?
It'll be an EP.
An EP.
Yeah.
That's oh my gosh. That's so exciting.
Yes.
Is that the first time like you've dropped an EP?
It's not the first
Not
time.
the first time?
I made music before when I was literally with like a rinky-dink like microphone, computer mic,
Yeah.
and just like really, I just loved music so much that I just tried to do whatever I could. And I was like, one of my manifestations was just to have music out on Spotify or
Mhm.
out on anywhere that I could. But that music is like, it's good, but it's like me at like 19, like super scrappy, which she deserves all the love. Love you, 19-year-old Maya. But now it's time for soon to be 32-year-old Maya,
Yeah.
you know, and this new evolved version of myself as a musician, because I want to do it all, and I can do it all. We all can do it all.
We sure can, girl. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, 5 years. Oh my gosh. Hopefully with maybe a kid, maybe married. If not, that's fine. Definitely a homeowner.
Nice.
Yeah, hopefully a house in LA and Phoenix where I'm from. And
Would you go back to Phoenix?
I was thinking about it honestly, like last
Really?
year, where I was like, what am I doing here in LA? I'm sacrificing seeing my
Do you
family.
think we're in a time now that you have to be in LA?
I
Because I
don't
think
know.
before you did, but now
Yeah.
I don't think you do.
A lot of my friends are moving back to where they're from for sure, but I feel like I have an advantage because it's an hour flight
Mhm.
and it's like 5.5 hours driving, so it's so accessible to go back. And I do love my life here. I love my little apartment. Like
Yes.
she's so cute. But yeah, I see myself on a TV show, like front facing, not a tree, not a chair or a couch, an actual person with more than 15-second cameo, the whole thing, maybe a little music. Yeah.
I love that. I would love to have you back when that happens.
Oh my God,
like
for
I am rooting for you.
sure.
Yes, girl.
Yes.
Be the change we want to see. Not to be cliche, but
Yes,
thank you
period.
so much for everything that you embody. Thank you
Oh,
for
thank
being
you for
here.
having me. This is so
Thank
cute.
you so much, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Stay tuned to next week, Wednesday, on another episode. Bye.